Hey, I'm Rob Olson, the Managing Director of the Manitoba Wildlife Federation, and I want to talk to you a little bit right now about interpreting deer sign. One of the most important signals that you've got a buck in your hunting area is this, a scrape. People get confused between scrapes and rubs. A rub is when a buck is rubbing his antlers on a tree and wears the bark off of it. This is a scrape. Scrape is a little bit different. Scrape is a phenomenon that deer use to communicate to each other. It has to do with breeding. There's two parts to the scrape. There's the part on the ground. This is where the buck is pawing the leaves away in the grass and exposes the earth. The second component of a scrape is this, and there's always going to be a branch above the scrape. And this is kind of where the buck decides to build the scrape. There's got to be a branch about eye height. They snap this off on the end and they rub this branch in their orbital gland, a little gland in front of their eye, and they're depositing scent on this. And so you'll see a snapped off branch above. Often it's on the edge of fields, it's on trails, along dikes, places where there's trees bending over, and it's usually along an open area like that. Often is, not sometimes it's in the middle of the forest as well, but often on edges of habitat. So the key thing you need to know as a deer hunter is that bucks will make a bunch of these scrapes in something called a scrape line. They'll build these along the edge of a field, along the edge of a bush, down a trail. And so they space them out in a certain distance. But these scrapes are how deer communicate during breeding. They're depositing a variety of scents here that are sending signals to each other about where they are in the breeding cycle, does communicating about if they're receptive or not. And so these are very important. As a deer hunter, there's a really good chance that deer's coming back here. So situating downwind from a scrape along a scrape line is a great place to be in the breeding season. So another type of really important deer sign for you to be aware of as a deer hunter are rubs. And rubs are a phenomenon where bucks rub their antlers up and down on trees, small willows like this, poplar trees, sometimes even fence posts. And they rub their antlers up and down, and it sends two signals to other bucks. It's a visual cue, okay, that there's a buck here, this is a buck's territory, and they're also depositing some scent here as well. So much like a scrape line, bucks will also create a rub line. They will rub trees periodically along the route that they're taking as they're traveling day to day in the breeding season, looking for does that are receptive to breeding. So when you see a series of rubs like this along a certain travel corridor, that's a great place to set up for deer.